Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show. Hello, I'm Mr. Warren Hayes. Welcome. It's so nice to have you once again here on the YouTube channel, youtube.com/Mr. Warren Hayes, or on your favorite podcast application, wherever it is you decide to, I don't know how you call it, indulge in listening to the Warren Hayes Show. Would that be the appropriate, term? Like when you decide to sit down and listen to it, do you as a viewer go like, oh, I'm going to indulge myself in a couple of hours of wrestling talk by this one, middle-aged white guy? That's what I'm going to do here. And I'm going to indulge in it. I'm going to wrap myself up in in my favorite soft robe, put on some comfortable slippers, maybe brew up a French press of coffee, something like that you'll just enjoy nice and quietly on your couch as the sun, beams in through your windows. Is that your routine? Is that how I perceive everyone? Is that how I perceive everyone listening to the show? No, of course not. You're probably doing this while you're vacuuming, or you're driving home or to work. You're doing something else. This is not an indulgence. I'm sure that for a lot of you, it's like, ugh. He popped up in my feeds again. I might as well listen to it. Ugh. What kind of malarkey he's going to be talking about this week? Well, I'm glad you asked. Because it's going to be a big review show today. Obviously, we're going to be talking about AEW Dynasty, which happened this past weekend. We'll also be reviewing TNA Rebellion, which also happened to take place this weekend. And, we'll touch on the most recent WWE roster cuts that, again, just happened a couple of days ago, this weekend, Friday to be specific, last Friday. So we'll get into all of that. But of course, I gotta take a moment to ask you to like this video if you're watching it on YouTube, and to leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or a 5-star rating on Spotify. And you can't put this over enough. I know I ask, and everyone asks, right? Everyone says, hey, a like would be great. Hey, a little review would be tremendous. And no one would be asking if it didn't have any sincere impact, right? And no one would do it with as much intensity or regularity or consistency if it was purely for vanity purposes and like, oh, look, I have another 5-star review. That no one would do that for that specific reason. Trust me when I tell yous. Trust me that these little acts, these little likes, these little subscriptions, these little things here, they all help out tremendously to grow the podcast on all of these platforms. And in their own little special way, they all help out tremendously. So you could, if you wouldn't mind, that would be great. And on the other side, you could be also joining the Mr. Warren Hayes Show Discord. The link is in the description, and that's a good thing. And I'll stop being all mush mouthed here in a second, and I'll get around to pronouncing things properly. But yeah, the Discord is in the description. So the link, not the Discord itself. The link to the Discord is in the description, so we'd love to have you come join us. It is a nice time. You can also follow me on Blue Sky if you're into that kind of stuff as well. Just seek me out. I'm there, and I'm doing things. I chat, I share. It's a nice time. All nice times. I only hang around when there's nice times to be had. And I was on a couple of podcasts recently. Like, I've been keeping very busy. I was on the Good, the Bad, the Hungry podcast over on Voices of Wrestling with the boys Fred and Tyler, and we did a heat check on AEW Dynasty. So, if you go back and watch it now, it's already old news. It's already old news, but nonetheless, we've got, we basically talked about how we felt going into Dynasty. But it was a great time to be with those guys on the podcast. And as you can probably tell, it is a AEW podcast, so that's all they talk about. The Review Dynamite talk about news specific to AEW, and that's all on the Voices of Wrestling podcasting network. So go check that out, or find them on their own as well. They have their own standalone podcast thing. That's how it works. You do the thing with the network, and you also have your own little thing on the side, so you can absolutely bounce around and all around. Just as simple as that. And I also wrote up an article for Voices of Wrestling as well about the shrinking space of wrestling criticism. Go check that out, voicesofwrestling.com. It's a good little article. Got lots of positive feedback on it. I think we're ready to go. We've already broken down a little bit the run sheets for tonight. So without further ado, let's begin the weekly wrestling inspection. Let's start it off by talking about the WWE releases. Last Friday, Fightful started reporting that a number of wrestlers from WWE had been cut after SmackDown, or during SmackDown last Friday is when all of this was going down. The wrestlers who were given their notice were former WWE champion Jinder Mahal, Xia Li, Zion Quinn, Veer, and Sangha by that accord. And we learned, I believe it was yesterday, that also part of those same cuts that hadn't been reported on Friday was Von Wagner. So these wrestlers have all been cut from the company. They are no longer with WWE. I mean, look, this is a thing that we might be getting back into doing so. Like, for a long time, the post WrestleMania cuts were legitimately a thing, and people were always a little worried about them. And then for a couple of years, it wasn't quite as prevalent. And then, of course, during the pandemic, they just sliced through everything. They just hacked through the roster. But maybe this is going to become a thing again. Maybe this is something that might happen with a little more frequency. And so there's some interesting patterns here to take a look at here. Which we'll get. Let me give a few thoughts on each of these wrestlers here that have been released. Jinder Mahal, of course, is probably not probably, but is absolutely the biggest name, and probably maybe a little surprising for some, but also at the same time, you're like, well, it's not as if they were doing much with him. In fact, this is the second time that Jinder Mahal has been released from WWE. He was released in 2013 after you remember 3MB? Yeah, I'm sure you do. After all of that, he was released in 2013, and he worked indies for a couple of years, then came back to WWE in 2016, where then everything was set up for him to get the run that he is most well known for, the run that everyone knows him for, where he became WWE champion to the dismay of the majority of wrestling viewers at the time. I know it's a bit of a joke now, somewhat of a meme. We all have a good chuckle at it, but back in real time, it wasn't all that funny. He dropped the title in 2018 and never came close to ever even sniffing the title afterwards. They even saddled him into the 24/7 outfit. So, that just never happened again. And they did this superstar spectacle with him, used him throughout that specific run, used him as much as possible to crack the Indian market code, right? They wanted to get into India. They being WWE, they weren't the first to try. It wasn't even their first attempt themselves. They won't be the last either, but no one has figured out how to crack the code and get into India proper. So, WWE did a big push with Jinder. If I'm not mistaken, there was a show. There was a show during that period, and then later they did the Superstar Spectacle, the WWE Network / Peacock thing that was exclusive just on streaming, where they showcased Indian talent. And look, it just never worked out. There hasn't been a promotion that's figured out how to make pro wrestling, how to make true inroads into India, despite it being a huge market. And I think having it there, despite the fact that there's an appetite, I believe, for pro wrestling, no one's ever. I don't know what it is. I don't know what the thing is, but it didn't work out with Jinder. He's been, of course, he's been injured, but also, just remained at the bottom of the card ever since. Right up until recently, right? He was used to promote the Rock's return. Where they swerved. Everyone thought we got a big surprise, and everyone was expecting The Rock. Wasn't that it? I think that's what it was. But he's 37 years old, so he's not exactly a spring chicken. But there's a lot of people who are in contemporary. When I say not a spring chicken, I do mean in pro wrestling terms, right? I mean, he's not even 40. He's, in my book, he's still very young. And a lot of guys at his age are, entering their prime or are in their prime. And you just have to wonder, Jinder with his injuries, how much he's hampered now. And if he's hampered by his injuries, you have to wonder what his overall performance is like now, because Jinder Mahal was never known for his outstanding work rate. This isn't a guy who go out there and put on slapper matches. In fact, a lot of people would, one of the main criticisms that you got out of Jinder Mahal's WWE Championship run was that his matches were kind of dull. So, what would happen if he did hit anywhere else? Would he be able to keep up? I don't know. And the question, obviously the questions are, where does he go? Where do you send him? AEW? I don't. There's some people that if they get released from the company, I'm Tony Khan. I'm like, at the very least, I'm going to kick the tires on him. Like, when the Sheamus rumors were going around, I don't know if you sign Sheamus to a deal, but you definitely bring him in and you give him a try. You see what he's able to do with your roster. That's probably one of the more fascinating aspects. And we still have the Drew McIntyre situation where it's like, is he signed? Is he not signed? He's probably signed. But, you bring Drew in, you check that out. Jinder, I don't think he has the chops, I don't think he has the chops to end up in AEW. I think it'll just expose him forward and further, and it won't do him any good. It won't service his career. I think TNA is a good landing spot for him. They seem to be on a roll, hiring former WWE guys as well. I don't mean that disparagingly. I just it is a fact that this, it's observable that this is what they've been doing. Do you give him a try there? I think he has more of an upside there, probably. I don't see him going back to the Indies. He might also just sit around and wait for a call back. Maybe eventually when they start doing Legends Nights again in a couple of years, maybe he's just going to wait around until he gets the call. Anyway, that's what I got for Jinder. Not exact. Look, none of these releases are surprising in the sense that they haven't been used, except for one, which we'll get to, but they haven't really been used overall. Creatively, there was nothing going on, and some of them weren't great workers, like Jinder. So you're like, well, okay, maybe it's just time to release some ballast, and there you go. Xia Li, she has been in the WWE developmental system since 2017. Very highly touted as the first Chinese female, to compete in WWE. And man, they tried with her, and it's not as if they went in half-assed either, right? They threw resources behind trying to get Xia Li over with the Tian Sha stuff. You remember that little group she had with Boa and I can't remember the veiled. I skips my mind. I can't remember right now, but that was an angle on NXT which was taking up a lot of space, a lot of airtime. They were airing vignettes. They were doing the spooky shit. I actually really liked the look of the trio. I thought they had a fantastic presentation. But both she and Boa were not exactly prime wrestlers, and Xia Li sort of developed a reputation of hurting people in the ring too, being very vicious with her kicks, which was her thing. Don't get me wrong. But she hurt Mercedes Martinez during a match. If I'm not mistaken, it was a concussion, right? She injured people, right? And then she goes up to main roster, and then they give her. You remember that gimmick where she was like this superhero, right? This justice seeker, and they had her come out to the cherry blossoms floating in the back, and then suddenly there was lightning, and there was lightning all around her, and they do the AR thing, and then there was light, and I'm like, Jesus Christ, they're going hard on her. Like, they really tried with Xia Li to make Xia Li a thing, make it work, and it didn't. And I would love to know what are the reasons why. If I'm, as an observer, as someone sitting back and looking at it and, with watching Xia Li matches, I just think the work wasn't there. That's just as simple as that. And, she's 35 now, started in 2017. We're 7 years later, and she barely crawled out of developmental, only to make it to main roster and then not be used on main. Now, again, I believe she had been injured a couple of times, but the thing, the crux here is that I think it just didn't work out because she wasn't very good. I know it's a rotten thing to say, but I think that's ultimately what happened. I think this is the main reason why she was released, because with the gimmicks that she was given, you would think that this would have worked. It would have translated. Put this in the hands of a better wrestler. I don't have of course, these were very Chinese-centric. These were very Chinese-oriented gimmicks, so, you're not going to give it to, I don't know. You're not going to give this gimmick to, Brian Pillman Jr., right? But I think it gets to a point where, I think pound for pound, you give it to another wrestler who's a little more capable, a little more talented, maybe a little more charismatic. And I thought she had a good look, and they should have been able to tear the house down in WWE with this stuff. I don't understand. It's curious to me. Like I said, she's 35. She has exclusively wrestled for WWE. I don't know what she can do anywhere else. Like, this is another situation where it's like, I don't know what you do with her. You know, if I'm Tony Khan, I stay away from her. Like, I would stay away from her, period, because I think she has a reputation for, you know, being a little stiff in the ring. And I don't necessarily think that's a good thing. Like, if you were to tell me, if Xia Li were to post tomorrow morning, thank you, wrestling fans, for supporting me over the years, but I'm now leaving my career behind and moving on to whatever the fuck. I wouldn't be surprised. You know, I wouldn't be surprised in the least. You know, she'll probably reach out. TNA, maybe, but then again, I don't know. She's an odd one in my book. I don't know where she falls, where she could fall and have like a good secure place moving forward. Hard to say. Zion Quinn, former rugby player, he's been in the system since 2018. Look, I'm going to be honest. I haven't seen much of Zion Quinn. I remember seeing a couple of matches. I was like, okay, there might be something there. I always thought he had a great look, good presentation. But, you know, didn't he have a thing where he was madly in love with Elektra Lopez for a while? Why do I remember this stuff? Yeah, I mean, look, 34 years old, you know, it's a kind of situation. Here's the thing. It's kind of a situation just like Xia Li, both of these people here, where it's what you see is what you get kind of situation, right? Like, they're not, I'm sure a lot of people, you know, when I said Xia Li is 35, people went, what? Like, expected her to be much younger than she is. Like, they're not going to grow. They're not going to, you know, suddenly, you know, grow exponentially before our eyes and then become this all of a sudden this top tier great pro wrestler. I don't think so. But, you know, I'm also talking a little through my hat because I haven't seen enough Zion Quinn to really judge what he can or cannot do. So I don't know. Sky's the limit for him. Send him to Ring of Honor. I don't know. Like, I like his look. Again, his look is pretty good. But anyway, Veer and Sangha. Sangha, before joining WWE, did some Ring Ka King stuff back in the early 2010s, late 2000s. Anyway, he was Deadly Danda, and then he joined up WWE and was a system guy since 2018. And Veer was a system guy as well since 2018. Now, you're starting to see a pattern here. Are you starting to see a pattern? Xia Li, developmental, 2017. Quinn, 2018. Now, these guys, both 2018 as well. I'm starting to see a pattern here. Like, these are people who have been with the company in developmental in some form. You know, how about this? Never had a true main roster breakout moment for 6 to 7 years. How long does this work? This wrestler making factory, right? How long does it take before you start churning out results? These are not results. These are people ultimately that you're cutting. The amount of money that has been put in trying to develop these people into wrestlers. Well, you know, we've released 5 people under this banner that are all around the same time. So, you know, I guess it's better to cut losses, you know, regardless, you cut your losses. It's later than sooner, but what are you going to do? But, again, you sort of have to wonder who was around in these classes back then. Who was around in these classes back then that really broke through? How many people are still around? And I'm not talking about the established indie stars that were coming into NXT at the time, right? These Xia Li, Zion Quinn, Veer, Sanga, like I said, did a little bit of ring kicking, but he's essentially a WWE system guy. He didn't work anywhere else. Like, these are all system people. These are all people that were brought in to learn and to train exclusively under the WWE banner. And now they're gone. Like, I'm just looking at some of the people who came in 2018, right? Just taking a look at all of this. And again, outside of the names, like the wrestlers who had made their names elsewhere. Look, in 2018, you get Keith Lee come in. You get Lacey Lane, who was, what's her name now? Kaden Carter. But then you have like Tayshawn Dong, right? The 7-foot basketball player. You have Io Shirai coming in. But Tayshawn Dong, he's no longer there, right? Okay, hang on. Let me pull up his cage match. Tayshawn Dong. Did he even wrestle? I don't even think he has a cage match. He doesn't even have a cage match. But look, it was all it was pretty sure it was all for show. Then Deonna Purrazzo was in that class too, and she's gone. Then you have Denzel DeJournette. There's another guy who hit the bricks. Monique Jenkins, right? Who at that point was wrestling. She had been wrestling for at least like nearly a decade. MJ Jenkins. She had been wrestling for at least about a decade, close to anyway, 7-8 years. So again, she was brought in, but she didn't work out either. Then they had Ridge Holland in that class as well. That's been a bit of an up and down situation. And Stacy Irvin Jr. You remember Stacy Irvin Jr.? Hell no, you don't. No, you don't. Well, there's another guy that they cut. And then, in October, they had another class, which had, Matt Riddle and Punishment Martinez and Chelsea Green, Mia Yim, Humberto Carrillo, right? And then they had Omos, who is very much still a work in progress. They haven't been exactly pushing that guy to the moon. And Daniel Vidot, who was a rugby player. Does he still even wrestle? Oh, well, it's Zion Quinn. Oh, there you go. Okay, so full circle on that one, Warren. Good job. It's like, wait, he kind of looks familiar. That's Zion Quinn. So, I mean, what is this system? What are they producing? Who are they producing? There's clearly more of a focus now, back probably in 2018. Now there's more of a focus on developing new talent. So maybe, but again, it's not the resounding successes that everyone likes to think or pretends the Performance Center is. It's not the case. We're all releasing these people who've spent years in developmental, and at some point you do have to cut bait where you're like, well, this isn't working out. But it takes you 5, 6, 7 years to come to grips with the fact that these people might not be the thing. Like, it's bizarre to me. And because at the same time, these are all these people are all athletes to a degree. These are all people who benefit, whose best years basically are being kept from performing athletically because they're being kept on the sidelines for whatever reasons. Probably because some of the reasons being, no, they're not good enough. Maybe these should just be cut earlier. You know what I mean? Like, to a degree, I'd have more respect for that if, like, after a year, 2 years, you're like, no, because these people also need to move on. Because you're in your athletic prime for only a certain amount of time. And if wrestling doesn't work out and you want to try other endeavors, well, the clock is ticking. Anyway, back to Veer and Sangha. So Sangha is, it's whatever. Like, I don't, the Indus Share stuff with Shanky and, right, there was different combinations of Indus Share, and Veer seems to me was a constant. Veer and Sangha were a constant too, and Sangha clearly didn't appreciate getting released either. So he went on social media and sort of said his piece there. Veer is baffling because for a while they were positioning him as a big thing, right? The Veer is coming vignettes. Veer is coming to Raw. And it turned into a whole joke, into a whole meme, because they were doing this week after week after week, and people were getting hype. Other people were just pointing and laughing and whatever. Like, Veer was somewhat of a talk of the town, and they never did anything with the guy. Like, never. They never did anything interesting. They didn't even follow through on the Veer is coming stuff. It's just at some point he did show up on Raw, right, with Jinder, just as Indus Share again, and it's just like, oh, there he is, no fanfare, nothing, didn't even point out, just a completely ignored and forgotten, moved on. It's kind of weird, to some degree, and I wonder if because this was all going on while Vince was still around. So I don't know if this was a situation where Vince thought it was funny for a while and maybe wanted to do something and then kind of lost interest or forgot. Because Vince, famously said to someone who was challenging him on a storyline not making sense and bringing back things that happened, Vince had said something to the effect, I've forgotten about it. So if I've forgotten about it, everyone else has too. Right? So that's how, it was a show for him. It was a show entirely for him. Look, what happens to these guys? Look, Veer is 34, Sanga's 39. Like, these again are two guys, is what you see is what you get, but we don't even know like how they spent the better part of the past 5 years or so, 6 years, wrestling like on occasion, being brought out when it was permissible, essentially, like when they were needed for their special talents, and Sangha went out and said it straight, in his videos that, they trot us out for the Indian market and they don't even try. That's it. They trot us out for the Indian market. They don't even try all that hard, and then we get pushed aside. So he's not wrong, because that's exactly what it looks like. Where did the guy look? If TNA wants to ring king it up again, they're more than welcome. Let's go. I'm all for it. But otherwise, again, like, these are guys, I was like, what do you do? We haven't seen enough of these guys. We don't know. We don't know. I don't know anyway. And then finally, Von Wagner, Cal Bloom, his real name, the son of Wayne Bloom. This is another system guy from 2019 that they've kept around for 5 years and that they tried hard with. This guy they tried. And, I never saw anything really compelling in Von Wagner, but you know, they gave him little pushes, and now they were doing a whole thing, right? There was a whole storyline in NXT with him and Mr. Stone's family and his kids, and he was like, I'm surprised because he was in the midst of one of these, you know, in a story. He was involved in a story, one of these nice stories that WWE fans love so much. But no, apparently it wasn't enough to save the guy, keep him from being cut. And I mean, he's not he's an acceptable pro wrestler. Like, he's not awful, but he's not great either. This is another guy where I'm like, what's his landing spot? What do you do with him? He might even be, he might be a guy that could benefit from working elsewhere, running the indies and doing and running a little bit on that scene. And I think he'd benefit tremendously from it. You know, he's 29, of course, getting close to the stage where he's going to hit his ceiling, if it's not already hit, and things are not going to improve. But he doesn't have the charisma, the crowd connection. There's something missing from his presentation, just himself, to be someone really compelling. You never know, but I don't see where he fits in, you know, as far as promotions go. Like, I don't even see TNA giving him a call. It's like, hey, why don't you come over? And he's, you know, a bit of a you know, he's Von Wagner. What more do you need to say? It's Von Wagner. I can't say I'm surprised that he was cut. I don't know what they saw in him. So there you go. Interesting little interesting affair here. So there you go. Those are the WWE releases that occurred. Of course, you know, wish everyone well. Hope they land on their feet. Good luck to them. Getting fired always sucks, but nonetheless, you know, I think these are very telling cuts. Despite them not being surprising, I think they're very telling as well. All right, enough of all of that. Let's get to reviewing AEW Dynasty that occurred just a couple of days ago on April 21st, 2024, over there in St. Louis, Missouri, at the Chaifetz Arena. Chaifetz. I tried to pay attention to when commentary said it so that I could so that I could pronounce it. Just go to the chase. Just go to the chase. That's easy, right? The Chase Ballroom. There we go. That's easy to pronounce. According to WrestleTix, 6,544 tickets have been distributed for the show. A show that was that, you know, basically, you know, people bought tickets early on off of the announcement of Danielson versus Ospreay. That was the match that got everyone in the building, and continued to do so. So, you know, not a bad little turnout here. For the pay-per-view. We're far from a disaster, although WrestleTix was mentioning that a lot of in the days leading up, in the, you know, couple of days beforehand, tickets were like $18 a pop. So, I mean, is it a gate success? I don't know. I don't have access to the numbers. I couldn't tell you. I couldn't say how much money AEW is making out of all of this, but I can, I can tell you from experience as well, from seeing a couple of AEW shows in my time. These days, like for a wrestling consumer, unless you're someone who has the money and they're like, nah, man, I am getting front row seats every time, and you're all the more power to you if you can pull it off, and you love doing that stuff. That's good. But if you're someone who's like, no, I can wait a bit. I'll wait a bit till the ticket prices come down a little bit. I don't want to pay, whatever, $130. That is a good strategy. That's something you should do. AEW's ticket, I don't want to say woes, but it's ticket problematics have led us to a situation where if you wait like really last minute before buying your tickets, you're going to get a fantastic deal. A tremendously fantastic deal. Again, you're not going to have like ringside seats, but it's happened to me in the past where I get some pretty good bowl seats, lower bowl seats, and I'm like, oh, this is pretty good for the price. Yeah. So as a consumer, this works out well for us. As a company, well, it's not that great. But I'm at a point right now when it comes to discussing ticket prices here on the Mr. Warren Hayes show, is that we'll continue to mention it, continue to keep track of it, but until I think I'm at a point where we need to know what this TV deal is going to be like for AEW. I think that's the crux of the situation here. If we know what they're up to in that regard, if we know what kind of money that they'll be getting, guaranteed money they'll be getting, it will help us get a better grip on whether the ticket prices, the ticket sales period for weekly tapings are good or not, if it's a disaster or not. Don't forget, WWE, before getting into this hot period, had many years where ticket sales were not that great, but they were still operating on a full capacity, just going boom, 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 boom. So because of the TV money, right? Because of the kind of money they were able to score with their TV deals. So it's the same type of situation here. I don't know. Like Tony says that he's going to get a big, that it's going to be a big money deal, but we really haven't heard anything else, and there's nothing else going on. Let's just go, keep going. Let's just see how, I'm going to, you have to temper a little bit with that until we get this news. And if the TV deal is not great and ticket sales aren't great, then yeah, now we can start biting our fingers. But from everything that we've heard, the TV deal is going to be very, very, very good, which will offset the worries, the qualms of not selling out buildings. But don't always keep this in mind that, a full building for your TV tapings, full building, ecstatic crowd, that is always best. That always makes your product look better, makes it look hotter, and you end up selling even more tickets because then people want to go see this show where everyone is, hanging from the rafters and bouncing off the walls. So, but again, this was pretty good. I'm excited to see what the buy rate is going to be like. To the buy rate, look at me. The buys period, how it's going to look like. We'll probably get an idea of this a little later on in the week. And we'll keep an eye on that as things move along. Where should we start? I think we'll start with the top, like the top of the card, right? We'll talk about the business end of the show and then work our way back. How about that? Or come right back around, not go our way back, like then go back to start and then come. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But what I'm trying to say is that, well, I think we're going to start with the top of the card, which was the AEW World Title match where Swerve Strickland defeated Samoa Joe to become the AEW World Champion. I mean, this is tremendous. This is a great elevation for Swerve Strickland, a guy who I have championed for being a champion for a while, nonetheless. When he came into AEW, and we can even go back to when he was doing the hit row nonsense with the rest of them. He was the crown jewel. He was the centerpiece, and we all felt it. We all felt it. Look, I'm trying to say too many things at once here, but I think that unconsciously, everyone realized how much of a star Swerve Strickland was when WWE brought back Hit Row after Strickland had headed off to AEW, right? And they brought back AJ Francis, the B-Fab, and Tahuti Miles. What the fuck is his? I don't remember. What is it? Ashante the Adonis. There you go. And bringing those three back without the glue, without the guy keeping everything together, just made the act feel third tier. Swerve was absolutely the crown jewel of that thing, of that setup. And it just turned out to be the disaster that it was. He heads on over to AEW. He's looking like a star. Cody, and this all happened like right around, and Cody leaves right shortly thereafter. And you can go back and listen to me talking about the reality show, right? Because Cody had the Roads to the Top gimmick. And I was like, look, if TNT wanted another reality star, they wanted another reality show, just give it to Swerve. That guy would be tremendous and would attract an entirely different audience than what, the Cody Rhodes did. So like, I'm excited here because he's a guy that deserves this level of elevation, and they worked to elevate him, right? He's, of course, first black man to be AEW champion, who joins overall a relatively short list of world champions, of black African-American world champions, right? Couldn't be happier about it that they decided to pull the trigger, excuse me. They didn't pull the plug, to pull the trigger on this instead of wait. Like I talked about on the preview last week, there's really two ways to go about the Swerve's coronation, and both ways had value, right? Like you could pull the trigger right here at Dynasty, or you could wait a little bit and maybe have him win the title off of Hangman Page. Maybe have him win it at Wembley. I've said it a couple of times. Having Swerve Strickland be the first Black AEW World Champion happen at Wembley in front of 80,000 people or whatever, 70, 80,000 people. That's the kind of thing that Tony Khan is a bit of a sucker for too, and you're like, okay, I could see this happening. But I'm also very much a guy where it's like, if you have the match, do it. If you've got the match, make it happen. If you waited a little too much for it, you do risk alienating your fan base, and you risk entering a situation where a WWE-esque situation where, then Swerve has to finish the story, and then it gets exhausting and it gets exhausting and infuriating for those of us watching as we go along. You know, it's not a lot of, I've seen a lot of commentary where it's like, oh, you know, they're just pulling the trigger because he's hot right now. First of all, why is that a bad thing? Why is this a bad thing? Sometimes you have to go with the hot commodity. Sometimes you just go for it, right? You jump right in, you dive right in, you pull the trigger, you make it happen, right? You just go for it and you see what happens type of situation, right? Swerve is over. The AEW fans love Swerve to the point that they had to make him turn babyface. He couldn't be a middle of the line tweener guy, which I think they attempted to do for a while. No, they had to completely push him over to the light side, and sort of abandon his more base issues, right? And this has been a push that's been so on one hand, you know, oh, he's just hot now, so they're pulling the trigger now. Sure, you know, it's hotshot booking. No, but this is not hotshot booking, and it's anything but, because Swerve's build in AEW has been happening to reach this point since he came into the company. He, you know, sure, small, tiny builds, little mid-card builds, you know, his whole thing with Keith Lee, winning the titles, and then their feud and their thing. And then suddenly, next thing you know, people are cheering for him. They're excited to see him. He's getting bigger. He's getting booked in bigger matches. He does this, the Continental Classic. He has his tremendous breakout feud with Hangman Page last year. And you know, that's the stuff that put him over. This has been a methodically done, well thought out build to make him AEW champion. And I am all for it. And it worked. That's the thing, is that it worked because they had the right guy doing the right things in a good old fashioned build. We're making this guy into a guy. It was going to happen sooner or later. This was inevitable. That Swerve was going to win the title. It was just a question of when. Decided to do it here. Like I said, I don't necessarily have a problem with it. We're elevating someone new. Excuse me. We're elevating someone new into the pantheon here, into the group of people, the group of top guys in AEW. Someone completely new, who hasn't been around, who hasn't been at the top, hogging a spot for months. No, this is someone new. I don't know how you can, excuse me, I don't know how you can be against that. I don't know how you can be, how you can work this into twist this into a way that it's not good for the creative aspects, because it is, and the crowd is happy. Crowd went home happy, and on Wednesday on Dynamite, they're going to be really happy to celebrate with him with his return. Not his return, but his debut as champion. This hasn't popped out of nowhere, and it makes sense for them to do it now. It just makes sense. They had him hot, and here's an outlier thing. Here's an outlier that we have to consider, that we have to keep in mind. In the meantime, while Swerve is hot and whatnot, you've got Will Ospreay that's tearing up the building. You have Kazuchika Okada, who is having a career resurgence, which is weird to say, but yeah, because, you know, he's one of the greatest of all time. But he is having this second wind in his career that is incredible, that is making people, you know, take notice, and his heel work has been tremendous. You have these guys waiting in the wings. You have Hangman Page as well hanging around. You have Kenny Omega if he comes back. You have all these guys, right? On the cusp of either coming back or claiming top spots. This was the moment to do it for Swerve. Because again, look, I think we're all in agreement that it is inevitable that Will Ospreay is going to be AEW World Champion. Now Ospreay is in this similar situation as Swerve is, where he gets huge reactions from the crowd. The audience loves him, right? How long can you stretch out Will Ospreay, challenger to the title and not champion? How long can you stretch that out? And yes, Wembley coming up in August. Yes. I think the time was now. I think the time was very good to do it now. And if it's Swerve and Ospreay working Wembley, hey, y'all are in for a treat. This is going to be tremendous because these guys are friends. These guys, they came up together. They wrestled each other a lot. They're pals. They're buddies. They're going to get it. This is going to be a good one. Like, we're in for it. As far as the main event scene goes in AEW for the next couple of months, we're in for a treat here, fellas and ladies and everyone in between. Yeah, it's just, circling back to the idea of, building a world champion. It's crazy how, people want to tell you, how wrestling has changed and, it's not the same rules anymore, so on and so forth. And yet, the good old-fashioned way of building a challenger into a champion, a guy who's over, it's just weird that it still works in the year of our Lord 2024. Instead of throwing everyone into a battle royal to determine the champion, right? You just build a champion. You build a challenger is what I'm trying to say. Build a challenger. Build someone who can eventually get into that spot. Build with them, use their strengths, maximize their strengths, hide their weaknesses. Joe has been a tremendous champion. Like, I don't think you can look to Joe and say, oh yeah, big uptick in business. Like, I don't have a problem with Joe dropping the title either, for that reason only. It's not as if Joe has had a breakthrough, created a breakthrough in business for AEW while he was out, right? Well, he was champion is what I meant, excuse me. But, he's excuse me. He's been, for all intents and purposes, for his role as champion, as a performer, an in-ring performer, and his promos, he has been an extraordinary world champion. And this is a guy that people were trying to convince us in 2016, 2017, 2018. People were trying to convince us that Samoa Joe was washed. He was done. There was nothing more you could do with Samoa Joe. Now, of course, he's not wrestling like he used to. This isn't 2008 Samoa Joe. I think we're all in agreement with that. But the guy works to his strengths. He works smarter. He focuses a lot on his in-ring personality, his own charisma, that vicious heel charisma that he has. He's able to make it come across. He's still explosive in his own way, in bursts. Of course, that's how it works, but not as frequently, not as crazily. Like I said, it's not the Samoa Joe from the past. But what a Samoa Joe it is still today. And look, the match itself I thought this was a good match. I thought this was a very good match. How much? Okay, so I gave the match 3.5 stars. Okay, I thought this was a very good match, but it wasn't great. But look, it's one of these things where the moment makes the match. It makes it feel special. But because it is a special main event, and I think that we have to keep that in mind moving forward. This was a very good, very special main event. The match itself was, like I said, was very good, but didn't blow your mind. You can argue because of the matches that happened before it. It played to it was a detriment to this match. You could absolutely say that. But there was no way Samoa Joe and Swerve Strickland sat down and were like, all right, we got to upstage, we got to upstage Ospreay and Danielson here. No way they said that, and no way could they do it either, because it's Bryan Danielson and Will Ospreay. Even if they gave themselves the most motivational speech to try and do it, they couldn't do it. But that's a whole. We'll get to that in a second. I understand people who say it didn't feel as great a match because of the other matches. I think even in a vacuum, even without the ladder match, even without Danielson Ospreay happening before the main event, I still don't think it would have been a better match. I don't think we would have seen it as a better match than what it was, which was a very good match. Like, we're splitting hairs here, but if for me to start calling a match great, it has to be a 4-star match. This wasn't a 4-star match. It just never got that next gear. It was good. It was well worked. It was well done. Great performance by both guys here. I got nothing really to complain about it. But we're just, like I said, we're splitting hairs. We're talking because this is the kind of thing I think you tune in because you want to hear my thoughts on. What made this match special and why it's a thing, it's because of the moment. Now, you see, this is what I'm told wrestling fans really, really want out of pro wrestling. They want moments, right? They want moments aside from matches. That's what WWE WrestleManias are. They're all about the WrestleMania moments as opposed to the matches themselves. It's moments. Well, we got a moment here. And it felt good. And it felt good because it felt authentic. It felt real. It felt like we have been rooting for Swerve for so long. Even if you weren't necessarily on the Swerve Strickland train before the Hangman Page, even if you only got on board the train with the Adam Page feud, you were still rooting for him for a while, right? And I think this is good. It's good for this moment here because everyone was behind him. Everyone wanted him to win that title. Everyone wanted him to be the guy. Now he is the guy. So the moment helps make the event, the match more special. But, if I'm rating this on, it's not unlike my wrestling, me telling you how I don't know how to rate the WrestleMania match, the main event, the Cody and Roman thing, because of all the hootenanny around it, right? I don't know. I don't know how to do it. So here it's a little more easy because there's a match and then there's the post match and then there's the match, there's the victory, the significance of the history of the significance of the win, and then the post match, which made it all feel really good. You can't be down on this match. And I think, in my opinion, me giving it a 3.5 stars, I think that's absolutely fair. It was a good match, and everything that happened with the win elevated the whole moment more, if that makes sense. As opposed to, I don't know why I'm drawing comparisons, but I think it's because, the WrestleMania 40 main event night 2 thing is the most direct comparison, where I don't know how to rate it because of all the stuff that happened. Like, it makes it difficult for me to judge it as a match. It becomes a spectacle within the match, and it's entertaining. It's a nice time. It's a good moment. But as so as to review a match, I don't know. I don't know what to say. I don't know. I don't know how to slap a star rating on it here because of all the stuff happening within the match that is directly influencing the flow, the structure, what the match is about. Here, the match happens, we're done, then we have everything. So I can slap a 3.5 on it and say it's a 3.5 with an asterisk because the match is very significant. And I'm excited to see. Now, I was talking about Samoa Joe earlier, but now we're going to take a look at Swerve and what kind of, what will he have an influence on ticket sales, on ratings, and so on and so forth. Now, Swerve is entering, he's the top guy, and that's tremendous, but he's entering an entirely different territory at the same time. So, I mean, I'm excited to see. It's good. It's good. It will always be good when professional wrestling organizations push new guys, push the young guys, push the new guys, as opposed to always clinging to the top, always clinging to the same little circle of guys. And there's proof. There is proof to that over the ages in pro wrestling that making a big deal out of your new talent, young stars, new people at the top is good for business. Now, I'm not saying that suddenly we're finally hitting the 1 milli in ratings every Wednesday moving forward. That's it. Now we're going to see what Swerve is going to be able to do here. Anyway. Look, I mentioned it. Let's go right to it. Like Will Ospreay defeating Bryan Danielson in a half-hour plus match. That was one of the greatest professional wrestling matches I have ever seen. I put that out on Blue Sky the minute it was done. Same thing in the Discord. It was just one of the greatest wrestling match I have ever seen. Beautiful, brilliant, violent, spot on, perfect. Like, it's essentially flawless pro wrestling match that was executed with passion, with heart, with love of this stupid ass sport that we all love. I've watched it twice at this point. I watched it on Sunday. I watched it yesterday, and I'm probably going to watch it again later. Like, this is going to be one of these matches that is just going to burrow into my imagination. That it has burrowed into my imagination, but that I'm going to learn. I'm going to end up knowing by heart, that I'm going to be into. And we'll be talking about it for decades, Can't get it out of my head. An absolutely phenomenal match. Everyone is so precise. Both of these guys. They're so precise, so spot on. Sometimes when I talk about, especially when I'm delivering criticism upon wrestlers that I feel don't have it, right? Don't have to name names now. But, when I talk about, they don't have the footwork, they're positioned all wrong, so on and so forth. This is a match that should demonstrate exactly what I mean when you're looking for this kind of stuff. When it is particularly when it comes to positioning. All of these moves, everything that they were performing, that they were going through, was just connected. Everyone was in the right spot at the right time to eat the move, take the move in the best way possible. And it went above that. It even went above and beyond just like pure technical thing. There was heart. There was a struggle, a combat. There was things in here where I'm like, I'm jumping out of my seat because I'm like, this rules. You don't see this kind of stuff. You know, here's a silly one, maybe a silly one, but I think this is indicative of what I'm trying to say. The triangle move, right? When Danielson has Ospreay down and he suckers him into a triangle, right? And he's holding the arm. And we've all seen this spot a million times. The guy who's in the triangle lifts the guy up and power bombs him, right? And then that breaks the move. We've seen that a gazillion times. What do these guys do instead? What do they decide to do instead? Because they're not going to do some rote little I'm not going to do some rote bullshit here. No, they're going to try something else. Ospreay tries to powerbomb out, but he can't, right? Danielson sort of drags him back down. So he lifts him again, and then you're like, oh, he's going to do the powerbomb. No, he doesn't. He lifts back up, Danielson dangles down, and Ospreay does a Styles Clash while Danielson is still holding onto the arm. It's absolutely tremendous stuff. Out of my seat. And there's this tremendous sequence, and you know exactly which one I'm going to talk about, where Danielson lands a near fall roll up on a fantastic Rana, one where I'm like, holy shit. And then they run after each other. Danielson ducks a hidden blade, bounces back with a tremendous Busaiku knee. This just lands flush. Boom. And the speed this was done at, the execution of it, it was all brilliant. And then the finish, of course, starts with a duel, right? They're both in each other. They're both staring at each other from the corners. Looking down, looking across the ring at each other. Danielson's doing yes chants. And then Ospreay starts pulling the elbow padding off for the hidden blade. And Danielson's looking at him, and Danielson's expression changes. Danielson, in this run, the dream match parade that he's been on, he's been cocky, he's been smarmy. You know, he's always laughing in the ring because he always has the upper hand. Here he's not smiling. He doesn't look at Will doing his goofy, I'm taking this off slowly, dramatic shit and cracking a smile. No, he's looking at this and he's serious. He's dead serious. He's got a look in his eyes like, this kid's about to fuck me up. I was like, oh my God. It was a tremendous shot. Just perfect for what the story they're saying. And then they run at each other. Right? They build it up, they run at each other, and it's the hidden blade to the face that wins the duel. It's not Danielson. He just gets propped down, a Tiger Driver 91 by Ospreay, then a hidden blade. Well, okay. So he does the Tiger Driver 91. Everyone goes ape shit. I myself was like, thinking in my head, there's no way Danielson's taking a Tiger Driver 91 in this match. But he did, because he's a fucking sicko. So he eats it, and then immediately he starts to fucking he clutches his neck, and Bryce is over him, and Bryce is calling in the referee. Meanwhile, you've got Will, who's pumping up the crowd. He's doing his thing. He's going bruv, whatever the fuck. And he doesn't see Bryce showing concern for Danielson. He doesn't see Bryce calling for the medical staff. So he turns around, gets in the corner, and hidden blades Danielson proper and gets the 1, 2, 3. And Bryce is like, oh shit. And then gets the 1, 2, 3. Then the medical staff comes in and so on and so forth. And the amount of people that thought that this was legitimate is chef's kiss, right? Again, I want to preface this very, very clearly. It's okay to get worked. I got worked by Billy Starks a couple of weeks ago at Supercard of Honor. Now, I didn't get worked here by Danielson because I'm on to this son of a bitch. After all these years, Danielson is a master manipulator of your feelings, and he knows you're always thinking about his injured neck. He knows this. Why do you think he said, yes, let's do a Tiger Driver 91. Let's do the spot. Yes, hit me in the back of the head with your hidden blade thing. Let's do it. And he's in the ring, and he's doing it's not rigor mortis. I wanted to say rigor mortis. It's not dead. This is the corpse, Warren. He gets all fucking stiff and twisted. The hands do these, and he's and the staff is in there, and Ospreay's celebrating, and then at some point Ospreay's like, oh shit, and he sees that Danielson's not in a good way, and he goes over and he checks on him, and but Ospreay's still celebrating, and you could absolutely, you could absolutely hear the safety police hitting the ex formerly Twitter and complaining about how this was a terrible angle, right? And Danielson is hurt again, and this is all Will Ospreay's fault, unsafe, and blah blah blah, and all this bullshit. But no, especially when it comes to the hidden blade. They did the replay, and I like I said, I rewatched it. Like, Will could not have delivered the hidden blade in a safer way to make sure that Danielson's head would be okay, right? And Danielson sold it in the most perfect way possible as well. Again, these are workers, and the hidden blade may look vicious, and it is vicious. I've seen Will Ospreay give hidden blades where I'm like, oh, that didn't look good. Wow, a little stiff here, a little receipt here. But you can see it on the replay, and if you go back and you rewatch it, you can see it for yourself. It's just he hits it at a perfect angle where he's absolutely not. Even the hidden blade that he gave Danielson off the apron, which is wild. It's just a wild fucking move. But again, you look at the replay, and they're replaying it 2-3 times, and even in those replays, you're like, he was watching out for Danielson. Danielson's okay. So when people get upset, when I see, Wrestle Talk injury scare in AEW, and it's like, no, there was no injury scare. Are they being worked, or are they just being bad faith, or a little bit of both? If they're being worked, that's fantastic, and if they want to continue the work, that's fine. I don't understand how people get upset when wrestling moves happen, cool wrestling moves, stuff that makes you believe, that gets you into it. You're like, holy shit. And then people are, oh, this is terrible. What do people want out of pro wrestling? If it's not moves, and then there'll be this, then they'll say, oh, when someone gets hurt, oh, it's not ballet, which I still think is a bad comparison. Because I've said this story before. Well, it's not a story, but this, saying it's not ballet is a complete misunderstanding of what ballet dancers go through. The dudes, like, the women, but also the dudes, like the regimens they go through, the training. It's hard, man. Like, a male ballet dancer is one strong son of a bitch. You do not want to pick a fight with a ballet dancer. He will fuck you up. You have no idea how quick and wiry and strong these dudes are. I think it's just because what they do is dainty and graceful doesn't mean that they are, these are these frail, breakable humans. It's all the opposite. They're some of the toughest people on earth, and the women as well too. Well, you've probably seen Black Swan. That'll give you an idea, right? You've heard stories about ballet schools and shit like that, have you? You know, it's all true. But anyway, I digress. What are we talking about? Yeah, no. So people getting upset over the Tiger Driver again is silly, and it's always the same people regardless, right? And I cannot implore you enough to you know, if it annoys you, get the hell off of Twitter, X, formerly Twitter, and find yourself an environment, a community that shares what you like on the level that you like it, right? The MrWarrenHayes show, for instance, the Discord, come and join us. If you're in agreement with what I'm saying, there's a very good chance that once you pop into the Discord, you'll be like, yeah, these are my people. I'm telling you. I'm telling you, folks, we are slowly moving away from open, all accessible platforms in regards to social media, and we are heading more towards close communities like it used to be with message boards and whatnot. We're going back to that. There's going to be more and more of that moving forward. Anyway, tremendous match. Like I don't have much criticism on the angle. I think it worked. You know, could the choice have been, instead of doing an injury angle, could it have been just to have Danielson roll out of the ring and then Ospreay stand there and just celebrate and have us as fans just soak in this moment even more? I think that would have been better, but I don't hate this angle, especially since Danielson, you know, recently started talking about retiring again, like in the lead up to this. Oh, I'm not retiring. I'll never retire unless something medical forces me to. And I'm like, oh, you son of a bitch. We should have seen this coming. Well, look, you know, we'll get the kayfabe updates on Wednesday, but he was outright telling us. Danielson told us in his own little way in the lead up to this match, I'm going to get hurt. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. A brilliant match. A brilliant, brilliant match. One that, you know, not a lot of us can say that we were watching Steamboat versus Flair back in the 80s, right? More of us can say we watched, say, Bret versus Steve Austin. Okay. But, you know, like some of the all-time great matches, some of the where people just like agree, right? None of us can say we were there watching it in real time happen before our eyes. And yet these matches are talked about in reverence. Talked about with great respect and admiration as key points in professional wrestling, like these milestone moments, right? But here we are, 2024, and we watch Will Ospreay and Bryan Danielson. And this is a match that in 30 years, you know, there's going to be a whole bunch, in 10 years even, it's going to be a whole bunch of new fans who are going to come in. And they'll be seeking this match out. They'll be looking at, you know, lists of greatest matches ever, and they're going to see it right up there. And we'll have watched it. We'll have seen it live. We'll have seen, you know, Will Ospreay's career blossom and become one of the greatest to ever do it, if not the greatest at this point, right? I think there's a a good argument to make here. Bryan Danielson, another guy who still has, peak powers, and is also one of the greatest to ever do it. Like you put both of these together, both of these guys wrestling in a match, at their peak or still in complete possession of their powers, right? It's a confluence of elements that just doesn't happen very often, that we were lucky enough to be a part of. It's tremendous. Like this was history, and it's unfortunate that some people will not indulge in it for some weird tribal factionism, and because of some dislike, they won't indulge into it. And that's a shame. Oh, I recommend you watching this match, if it wasn't already clear. It's 5 stars. What are we talking about? All right, well, look, let's keep on with the business end of the card here. AEW World Tag Team Title Tournament Final. A ladder match. The Young Bucks defeated FTR to become tag team champions once again. Imagine, FTR and the Jacksons going, yeah, we'll follow up Danielson Ospreay. We'll be fine. Like a couple of years ago, we would have got, Paul White versus QT Marshall. but here is like one of the big attraction matches of the card, the tag team titles tournament finals, and you're like, yeah, okay, this is pretty great, and I have no doubt in my mind that the Jacksons were like, bring it on, we'll be fine, we'll rope them back in, and so did FTR, right? Because who else could follow? Who else? Anyone else would have been a disservice. What could have followed that match? The crowd was so hot, so loud for the entirety of the show. But these 4 talented guys just got in there, did what they do best, and they got the audience. They got this audience back into it, right? Because that audience was not into it. Not into it. They were silent. How about that? Quiet for a good portion of the opening of this match, right? But just off the backs of the Bucks and FTR, the Bucks, one of the greatest tag teams of all time, and FTR's right up there too. How could you not just like sit back, watch this go, and not be thoroughly entertained? The more this went on, the more the crowd was into it, I was into it, the more Matt Jackson was just taking head bumps everywhere. Jesus Christ. In the guardrails, and then that wonky spot with the pile driver on the ladder. Nick Jackson lands a 450 off the top rope through a table on the floor. Just amazing stuff. Dax is gushing. He's got the juice, and the juice is flowing, I'll tell you what. The pile driver spot, on the ladder on Matt, I thought Matt was dead because we didn't see him for the rest of the match. But that ladder sort of gave way on the little jump that Dax does. When you do the pile driver, the ladder sort of teetered, and like, Jesus Christ. Nick sunset bombs Dax off of a ladder too, and Cash does this tremendous rocket suicide dive, just like shot out of a cannon, I think commentary said. And then Jack Perry interferes to cost FTR their chance at winning. And he comes in with a Sting mask, which you have to appreciate. And he tosses FTR off the ladder or whatever the fuck. And then security jump him, right? And he's just looking into the camera with the biggest, most smug face, biggest smug smile. And the crowd erupts. The crowd just goes bonkers. Now, a couple of weeks ago on my Dynamite review, when I talked about the fucking footage, I wondered out loud, who was this for? What was this going to be about? And I said, the only possible winner here, the only possible way this might turn into positive is if it works for Jack Perry. And when I did my Windy City Riot review, I said, it seems to be working because this Chicago crowd was out for blood. It was the loudest reactions and it, I said it, maybe the footage will work. Of course, it was in Chicago. No, it wasn't in Chicago. It was in St. Louis. And everyone just went nuts. And he gets carried away. He flashes the elite sign, hand sign. Was this the master plan all along? Was this to get Jack Perry over with the All Elite Wrestling crowd? Because I heard, I had, some acquaintances over there that were DMing and saying, there's this, it said, there's this one idiot that's trying to start a CM Punk chat and people are telling him to shut up. Not necessarily at this moment. I don't remember when exactly, at some point in the show. And people in the crowd were telling, man, shut up, Maybe this is doing exactly what needed to be done. Maybe the embarrassment of the event will turn out to be good overall. But it's, as I pondered over the past couple of weeks, I think this is going to work out great for Jack Perry. I think he's going to be a winner in this situation. It's good stuff. And this match, look, you know what it was. By the way, Nick climbs to the top to get the belt. But you knew what this match was all about. And as far as the ladder match goes, and I'm absolutely a member of the ladder match fatigue crowd. I thought this was great. This is one of the most fun ladder matches I've seen in a long, long, long time. I gave this match, I'm sure you're all curious to know. Where is it? 4.5 stars. I mean, it was outstanding. It was a spot fest. It was brutal. It was chaotic. But it all held together. It wasn't just like a series of spots. This was all very, very good. And it's amazing. And it's a testament to these guys. It's a testament to these fine folks here. The Jacksons and Cash and Dax. It's a testament to their talent, their connection with the crowd, their charisma, their work to have won the crowd over in real time as this match was going on. Not that people hate them, just you're coming off of one of the greatest professional wrestling matches of all time. Crowd's going to be a little tired. But I'm not tired. We're still talking about AEW Dynasty. We really are. Why don't we go back to the start of the show then? We'll go with the pre-show, the 0 hour. Trent Beretta defeated Matt Sydal. Good little opener. Apparently Matt Sydal has been in wrestling for 20 years now. That is a phenomenal accomplishment. Good little opener. This heel turn is completely refreshing Trent. It's completely refreshing Trent. And it's doing the same thing for Chucky T. And the whole situation. I don't think these guys have been this interesting ever in AEW. Now, don't get me wrong. I know they're a fun collective, very visual. I get a kick out of them. Don't get me wrong again. Yes, the parking lot brawl. Yes, what I'm saying is that I don't think they've ever been this interesting. Interesting, as opposed to fun, as opposed to a nice time, good little workers, put on a good match once in a while. I'm talking interesting. People where you're like, oh, the difference between, oh, fun, it's the best friends, and, oh, okay, it's time for the best friends. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? Because now, this angle that they're setting up, which is one of the classic wrestling angles, don't get me wrong, I know we're not reinventing the wheel here, but Trent finishes the match, a good little match, like I said, beats Sydal, and then he starts beating on Sydal, and Chucky T runs in, and Trent hits the bricks. He grabs a microphone, says, look, man, you're ghosting me. I've been trying to reach out to you, so I'm going to have to do this in a public space now. You have till Dynamite to tell me where you stand. Are you on my side or are you on Orange's side? And he leaves it at that. But I'm interested in this. I want to know what's going on. So when this segment shows up on Dynamite this week, I'm going to be like, oh boy, here we go. I'm interested to see how this is going to develop. Does that make sense? Like, I'm not trying to shit on what the best friends have done in AEW. Far from it. I think that in the role, they've been perfect. But right now, this is so refreshing, and it's making them interesting. And this singles run, this Trent singles run that people have been clamoring for years, you might just get it. It might just it might just come to fruition now. So this has the potential to be great for them, right? I'm excited to see how this goes down. And as Trent is going back out, then Orange Cassidy comes out for his match, and Chuck just he leaves. You don't see him leave. He just goes off into the crowd or whatever the fuck. And Trent and Orange Cassidy, they have, they exchange glares, and I really like this when AEW does that, and I'm glad they don't overdo it, but when they do it, it's fun, when you have, two people cross over during their entrances, the exit and the entrance. I like that. Anyway, that led us to Katsuyori Shibata and Orange Cassidy defeating Lee Moriarty and Shane Taylor of Shane Taylor Promotions. This was very good too. I thought this was a fine, another fine match here. Everyone worked hard. Anthony Ogogo was on commentary. I think it was all right. Stereo drop kicks from the baby faces from Katsuyori Shibata and Orange Cassidy, both doing the basement drop kick gimmick, and Shane Taylor. But Shane Taylor getting some good offense in here, and it is a Orange Punch, right? Why did I not have written this down? Yeah, there you go. Good little finish too, back and forth between Orange Cassidy and Lee Moriarty. But Lee eats the orange punch to allow Orange Cassidy to get the win for his team. Fine little opener. I mean, this was a good little warm-up match getting us into the show. And that leads us to the main event of the 0 Hour, which was the unification match. Yes. It is a unification match for the AEW World Trios Championship and the Ring of Honor World 6-Man Tag Team titles. And the Bullet Club Gold team of Jay White and the Guns defeated the Acclaimed and Billy Gunn to unify all these titles. I am so excited for this to be done. I'm so thrilled that this is done. Done with Billy Gunn getting the Brock Lesnar push. You know, just kicking out his stuff, and he's like, I'll eat the finish here. I'll take the finish if you let me kick out of a bat shot and my son's finishing move. I'll take the L here. I'm so done with the Acclaimed. And I don't even care about Max's raps. Look, I don't. What he said, like the stuff he said was kind of gross, disgusting even. You know, you're like, what are we doing here? But that's it. Like this is Max Caster now. They're desperate. They're desperate to get crowd reactions. I'm over it. Like, I'm legitimately over it. I hope they disappear for a few months. And I honestly think it'd do them good if you have the Acclaim just disappear for months. You don't hear anything, and then at some point they come back and everyone, it's the Acclaim, they're back, and a big reaction. Because right now the act is stale. For me, they have go away heat, but objectively, I think the act is stale. There's nothing else going on. They clearly aren't at the height of their powers anymore. Take them off TV. Give them a break. If only to preserve Anthony Bowens' career, because I still think he has a lot of upside. I'm still very bullish on Anthony Bowens. Oh, so Trent versus Matt Sydal, I gave it 3 stars. The tag team match, I gave it 3.5 stars. And the trios title match, I gave it 2.25 stars. How about that? Then we start the show, and we start the show off so fucking strong, where Kazuchika Okada successfully defended the AEW Continental Crown against Pac, and just this fucking ruled. Like, out the gate, this is the match he'd give us, and on any other night, this would be match of the night. You know what I mean? But this is like one tremendous, mind-blowing opener that you're just sitting there, you're going, okay, can they maintain this throughout the show? Well, yes and no, but the vibes were maintained. Like, you're starting off with a great match, and all you have is expectations for great matches moving forward. This ruled. I knew there was a reason I got excited for Okada to come to North America and have all these matches with different guys that he hasn't seen before. Yeah, Pac was the guy. Pac was such a perfect guy for Okada's first AEW, like officially AEW as an AEW employee pay-per-view event. Pac was tremendous here. That springboard moonsault to the floor. And they're dropping Germans on each other, just right and left. And Okada gets back up, some fighting spirit after a German suplex. Both men are down. They're just going after each other. And they're dropping bombs on each other. And then Okada, who always comes out to a great reaction from the crowd because it's fucking Kazuchika Okada, right? You get the Okada chants, Okada. And then he teases doing the Rainmaker pose. And instead of doing the Rainmaker pose, he double birds the audience to huge boos. I'm going to tell you, who is a better heel in AEW than Kazuchika Okada right now? He does everything right. Little, small, tiny details, little facial expressions that he does. You know, there's this one moment where I don't remember what the move was, but he does a move and covers and Pac kicks out. And instead of doing the, you know, the soy face where everyone does now, it's like, you know, he kicks out and Okada sort of goes, you know, he's got like this smarmy smile where he's like, where that just exudes confidence. He's surprised, but more in a sense, but not as in a sense where, what do I have to do to beat this guy? But more like, oh, I see. I'm going to have to pull out the big guns to defeat you kind of thing. He's so fucking great. Okada has translated to North American pro wrestling so easily, so smoothly. Like this is a guy that people in New Japan, when he was at the top, they started to think, oh man, Okada's getting stale. And a couple of years ago, they were calling him washed. Do you remember that era where Okada was washed? Do you remember that one? Which I didn't adhere to, by the way. And they, he's so stale and whatnot. Sick of seeing him in the main event picture. He comes over here and it's a resurgence where you really didn't need, like, he's one of the greatest of all time. He doesn't need a resurgence, but he is just in his element here. And it's crazy that Gedo, whoever was booking, I don't know if Okada, let me say this, I'm trying to say this in a way too complicated manner, but he is so good of a heel right now that it begs the consideration that he probably went to Gedo at some point and was like, man, I'd like to go heel for a while. I'm kind of stale. And Gedo shot him down. It was like, no, you're the Inoki avatar. You can't do this. We can't have you going heel. You have to imagine that it was at the very least pitched and was shut down. There's another great move where Okada goes for the backpack neck breaker and Pac reverses it into a standing brutalizer. Just great stuff. Black Arrow attempt, but Pac gets kneed to the face. Rainmaker for the win. Pac is tremendous. I mean, I'm gushing over Okada, but Pac is tremendous. Absolutely phenomenal pro wrestler. And the expression he had after this match, sort of sitting on the ring, he was left alone in the ring, people applauding, and he's downtrodden. Pac is another one of these guys that needs some wins. I don't think anyone would object to a Pac push, and a proper one. I'm not talking like, when he was international champion. I'm talking about him getting his hands into the good stuff and laying some wins, getting the big wins, because he always seems to come up short at the when it's the big matches in AEW, and at some point I think a good story to tell is a redemption arc for Pac here. Christ, this was great. I get 4.25 stars. It's tremendous stuff. Then we go to the House of Black, defeating the trio of Adam Copeland, Eddie Kingston, and Mark Briscoe. This was another really good match. Very solid. Once again, solid trios action. Baby faces coming together against the common enemy. Everyone worked well here. Everyone worked well. And they were playing up a lot for Malachi Black and Adam Copeland, making a lot of emphasis that they were sharing the ring, they haven't touched, so on and so forth. And the finish comes when Copeland goes for a spear, but gets misted by Malachi Black, who then black masses him in the face. And he gets the pinfall. So, technically, he'd be next in line for a TNT title match. Which, honestly, AEW Adam Copeland with Malachi Black, no problem with that. No issues at all. You think this will make Malachi happy? You think he'll stay? I don't know. The rumors that, he's just biding his time. There might be some validity to it. I don't know. And then moving on. Anyway, I gave this, what did I give this? 4 stars on this one. Julia Hart versus Willow Nightingale for the TBS title. Willow Nightingale defeated her. She is the new TBS champion. This was pretty good. It was pretty good. It's Willow Nightingale just beating her up, and it's a decisive win. It's a good old-fashioned, I come in, I crush you, we hit the pay window. Some people were upset that it's the shortest match of the night. Of course, it's a women's match, 6 minutes. But look at the context here, okay? First of all, Julia Hart might be hurt, right? She didn't do much. They did an angle to keep her from bumping on Wednesday on Dynamite, right? And then we come to this match here where she works, right? But you keep it short so that she doesn't get overhurt. Like, I don't know how hurt she is. There's that question that she might be. It's hard to say. We don't know, all right? We don't know, but so if she's hurt, you keep him, or not quite 100%, you keep it short. And you do it to the benefit of the other person who can just come in and demolish her, which is essentially what happened. Sure, Julia had got some offense in. It wasn't entirely one-sided, but Willow dominated. And the rest of the context here is it's important that Willow looks strong coming out of this match because she's fighting Mercedes Moné in a couple of weeks at the Double or Nothing. So she has to come across as a credible threat, as strong. If Willow struggles for like 15 minutes to put Julia Hart away, what is she going to do against Willow Nightingale? This is basic wrestling storytelling 101. I don't have a problem with this. I think it's a good angle that they've told here. And if it's to the benefit of Julia not spending too much time in the ring to get more hurt than she already is, good. Nightingale won with the Babe with the power bomb. And you know what? Julia Hart had a good little run with the TBS title. She showed that she wasn't out of place by holding a title, right? We've been putting her work over. She's someone who's improved in the ring. She's improved with her presence, her star power. So a good run for Julia as a TBS champion. And look, again, she was just overcome by a clearly superior pro wrestler. That's all. I don't mind that it went so short because Willow ended up looking like a beast. I gave this 3.25 stars. And yeah, 3.25 stars. Roderick Strong versus Kyle O'Reilly was up on tap next. And how fucking good was this match? I'm sitting there and I'm like, I'm spoiled, baby. This is what I love about AEW. I'm just, I'm getting good matches, smartly done angles. This match absolutely ruled. They went all in on their specialties, right? Kyle O'Reilly with the kicks, the strikes, and Roddy with the backbreakers. So many backbreakers. So many backbreakers. One after the other, just landing on top of each other. Tremendous stuff. Strong was absolutely in his element. And Kyle O'Reilly here showed, and this was something we talked about on the preview last week, was the question, can Kyle O'Reilly still go? Well, the answer is yes. He still has it. He couldn't have had a best first opponent back. I know it's not his first, but for the big return match, for the one that everyone will really be paying attention to, he couldn't have had a better opponent than Roderick Strong. Friends, long time friends, wrestled each other on a few occasions as well. These are guys cut from the same cloth. They knew how to get the best out of each other. So if the idea here was to make Kyle look like a whirling dervish of strikes, then mission accomplished. That's what was done. Wardlow kind of interferes in this match, but really doesn't. It was a bit of a strange spot, but Roderick Strong nonetheless gets the win with the end of Heartache. I really, really like this match. 4.25 stars. I thought it ruled. I thought it was tremendous. You know what? After talking about all of this, and we're doing a live change here, I'm doing 4.5 stars for Okada versus Pac. How about that? How about that? I'm feeling good. Adam Cole pops out in his wheelchair. I was stuck on wheelchair. Couldn't find the word for wheelchair. There you go. He's rolled out on his wheelchair by Matt Taven and Mike Bennett, and he walks out of it. Stands right up, walks down the ramp. Look, the boot is gone. Looks like he's doing better. He gets into the ring. Wardlow is there with Strong, and they're celebrating. And Adam Cole is just driving daggers in the back of Wardlow's head for some reason. No, we know the reasons. But was he supposed to do something different? I don't know. Wardlow was in a car crash. Car got totaled. Did you see that? He posted it on the internet. And I was like, Jesus Christ. But he showed up anyway. He made the town nonetheless. Good for him. And I'm glad he's safe, more importantly. Yeah, there's some stuff going on, some friction. I was half expecting MJF to show up at this point, but look, we're on the cusp here. If Adam Cole is out of the chair and his ankle's okay, we're very close to MJF returning here. Brochachos forever. We're starting that one up again. Ooh, Nelly. Anyway, great match. Not so great was the FTW title match where Chris Jericho defeated Hook to become FTW champion. Now, I know a lot of people hated this match, hated it. And on Cage Match, they hated it. And everyone around me hated it. I thought it was mediocre. I don't think it was good by any stretch of the imagination, but I don't think it's as bad as everyone is making it out to be. I think there's a lot of fuel that is added to the dislike of this match that comes from people's natural dislike of Chris Jericho. Again, there are multiple reasons to not like Chris Jericho. His in-ring work, his constant presence, his political views, whatever you want to throw in there. There are numerous reasons why people don't like Chris Jericho. And I think sometimes it, especially when it comes to stuff that he does that has no bearing on his performances in AEW, I think people get a little. I think they let the hate come over them. How about that? They let it sway over them. But there's a lot of that. Now that being said, and I think Jericho would be one of these guys who would benefit from, I was talking about the Acclaim, take him off TV for a couple of months. I think Jericho would be one of these people who'd benefit from that. Because I think he clearly does have go-away heat with a substantial chunk of the AEW audience. I think you could erase him from any programs for a while anyway. Just take him off TV for a bit and see let things go. I think that would be okay. I also think one of the reasons people didn't like this match is I think the sheen of Hook has faded. I don't think he's as he was hotter. He used to be much hotter than this. Before they tried to humanize him maybe a little too much, have him talk, there had been talk back when Darby Allin started cutting promos like, Darby should never talk, And I think with the way Darby Allin has grown as a performer, I think that's debatable. But as it stands right now, I think that advice could have gone to Hook. Hook should never talk. Because while Darby is a perfectly decent talker, I think Hook is not. I think Hook as a performer, emoting, and so on and so forth, I don't think he's very good at it. I think I think he had a mystique which isn't there anymore. And I think it also contributes to the fact that why is this match happening? Who cares kind of thing. Because ultimately at the same time, the match is it's a dumb plunder match, right? And the story here is disingenuous mentor figure Chris Jericho doesn't want to hurt Hook, but I have to hurt you, kind of thing. But he doesn't really care about hurting Hook. He just, you know what I mean? Hook kicks out of 2 Judas effects, and it's weird because I don't know how it serves Hook to kick out of 2 Judas effects. I don't know. I don't know if, with the mystique not being what it is anymore, I don't think it's as natural. It doesn't feel as natural as authentic, if that makes sense. If had Hook still been the strong silent type. And I don't know how it serves Jericho. I mean, is this finisher done? 2 Judas effects? There's this great T-bone suplex off the apron through a table spot, which I thought was great. And Taz comes to see his kid after the match. And look, this was a 3-star match that went too long. I think that's fair. This was a comfortable, nice little 3-star match that went too long. So I'm giving it 2.5 stars. It was what it is. Not a good match. Just, but I don't think it's the, I don't think it's the disaster everyone is making, or that everyone made it out to be, at the very least. Then we had Toni Storm retaining the AEW Women's World title against Thunder Rosa. By God, man, this is Toni Storm's first good match in months. By gosh. They toned down the shtick and started wrestling again. And look at that. We get something that was good. And boy, Thunder Rosa was throwing some potatoes in there, wasn't she? There was a couple of, wasn't holding back in some occasions. And she does this great tornillo off the top rope. And Toni Storm works the bad back. Hell, we've got a pro wrestling story happening in this match here. She works Rosa's bad back. Rosa does a scary DVD, like scary because she was on the apron, lifts up Toni Storm, and she was kind of wobbly, and was like, "Oh shit, don't kill yourselves." And it looked a little scary, but it turned out to be okay. And they strike some more. Deonna Purrazzo runs in, keeps Mariah May from interfering in the match, and the Storm Zero gets kicked out of. Thunder Rosa lands a backstabber and a weird Cobra clutch. It was a weird finisher. The ref gets distracted. Toni Storm kicks Thunder Rosa in the nether regions, in the no-nos. Storm Zero for the win. I thought this was very good. This was a solid, well done wrestling match. I wish there had been a second gear to this, but beggars can be choosers. I'm just happy that we got ourselves a good Toni Storm match, which just goes to show that the fucking the fucking nonsense, the timeless Toni stuff is just getting in the way of her doing what she does best. Gimmicks are fine until they impede on match quality. Now we seem to be getting a groove here. And then we talked about the other matches as well. So that's AEW Dynasty. I thought this was a very, very good pay-per-view. Lots of matches to recommend here, of course. You know, you get Will Ospreay and Danielson, which is more than recommended. It's like, you know, required viewing at this point. You've got Swerve and Samoa Joe. If only for the moment, I think that's something that everyone should watch. Okada versus Pac and O'Reilly versus Strong. Those are absolute recommendations. But I mean, watch the show if you can. If you want to, if you haven't seen it yet, if you want to buy it, you know, it's time for it's time for you to call in, contact your cable operator, and get the replay. Yeah, but it's a great show. It's a great pro wrestling show. Once again, you know, AEW does it again. Another great pay-per-view. I loved it. I thought it was a tremendous pay-per-view. And we are going to wrap things up talking about another pay-per-view, this time TNA Rebellion 2024 from the Palms Casino Resort in fabulous Las Vegas, Nevada. 1,150 tickets distributed, according to WrestleTix, of course. You know, it's interesting because back in January, when this year started, this was a company that packed 2 nights in the Palms, right? And the brand switch had happened, right? And the end of 2023 had ended on a very high note for Impact/TNA. Lots of energy, lots of good vibes. People were looking forward to the new year and what this revitalized TNA had to bring. Now we're like 3 months away, removed from January, and no one cares about Moose's championship win. Scott D'Amore, of course, is gone. Stalwarts, the Motor City Machine Guns, are gone, and it's considered to be a bit of a blow. You know, you hear all this talk about contracts being restructured, and they had trouble putting people into the they had trouble putting people into the building. You know, earlier in the week they had like 550 tickets distributed for the show. You know, from the packed attendances, you know, for Hard to Kill, that's a huge step down. They got up to 1,150, but one suspects that the show has been massively papered. But, you know, the drop in ticket sales is from like within just a couple of months is what I mean. That's astounding. That's like kind of mind-blowing to a degree. It's not necessarily a good sign. I wouldn't take it as a good sign. I really wouldn't. But look, I mean, if there's one thing TNA is good at, it's self-sabotage, right? You know, a couple of years ago, there was some buzz going around. They had they had Kenny Omega as the champion for a while, and things were looking up, and the question was, well, what are they going to do when Kenny drops the title? Who's going to pick up the slack? Who's moving on? Who's going to be the next big guy? And they didn't really elevate anyone, right? And then last year, again, there was all this positivity, and they had Will Ospreay coming in and doing shows and all these good vibes. And again, just nothing. We're back to square one. There's always these resets. They can't seem to maintain momentum for themselves. It's fascinating. But as far as this show goes, look, spoiler alert, I enjoyed this. I thought this was a good little show. I didn't hate it. There's some stuff in here that I hated, but overall, I thought this show was fine. Maybe I was in a good mood. Could be. But I enjoyed this overall. But look, I didn't watch the pre-show. So I didn't see Leon Slater tear it up, quite unfortunately, but I haven't watched the pre-show. So we'll just get into the main card then. That started off with the TNA X Division title, where Mustafa Ali successfully retained against Jake something. I liked this match quite a bit. I liked the in-ring work. I thought this was a good pairing. Jake something is very, very, very good. And Ali's great too. Like Ali is, and he was good here as well. They both worked well together. It's almost as if Mustafa Ali is used to working an underdog style against a bigger, stronger opponent. And I wonder where he picked that up. But no, the pairing was very good. I thought they had really great chemistry. Didn't go into a second gear, unfortunately. You know, I still look. As much as I like this match, you know, I still have to see the great unfettered Mustafa Ali match. I have not seen it yet because I think he's too interested in doing shtick than anything else. I think that's what he's interested in, the character work, the shtick. Because when it comes to him doing, when it comes to him, like putting on a wrestling show, a match, excuse me. I don't know. It's a little half-cocked. It's not, he's good, but I feel like he should be better than this. I feel he should be going in harder, right? And I know he's supposed to be a heel, but his explosiveness would be better served if he were going around doing babyface stuff rather than, a politician's gimmick. I don't know. I like this more than the Hiromu match from Windy City Riot, bar none. But I still want to see the Mustafa Ali, the great Mustafa Ali match that I know he's got in him. That's the thing, is that I know he's got the match in him. He's just gotta come together and make it happen. And it's not because it hasn't happened. It has not happened because of the quality of his opponents, because he's having subpar dance partners. He's been working with some of the best light heavyweights, cruiserweights, junior heavyweights, whatever you want to call them, in the world. I mean, Jake something's not a lightweight in any way, shape, or form, but you know what I mean. Between Bailey and Hiromu, the list goes on. Like, where is it? Where is this great match that I know is in him? That's what I want to see. Rich Swann defeated Joe Henry. I mean, this match was just an angle. It's a waste of time. AJ Francis, because it gets involved because he's in an stable with Rich Swann now, and he tried to hit Joe Hendry with a chain, but he was stopped by Sean Merriman, who was in the audience, who grabbed the chain out of Top Dollar's hands. And Francis was like, what's going on? Merriman is a former NFL teammate of AJ Francis. And Merriman comes across he crosses over the barricade. Where is security? He comes into the ring to confront AJ Francis, who's chickening out, but it's all a ruse. Merriman attacks Hendry, and Swann hits the 450 for the win. And then there's a bunch of people in the ring celebrated with AJ Francis, and it's whatever. Where is the good Joe Hendry? I'm talking about Mustafa Ali, but where is the good Joe Hendry stuff? And I'm not talking about great. I'm just talking about good. I know a lot of people really like Joe Hendry. He's got the theme song. He does the goofiness. He had he remixed his entrance with AJ Francis doing the I Believe in Joe Hendry stuff. And he's tweeting out. It's like, hey, do you think we could get I Believe in Joe Henry to chart on was it on Apple Music? I don't remember. And I'm like, he's a charismatic guy. He's an entertainer, but every time I see Joe Hendry wrestle, I'm like, okay. There's nothing really exciting. I don't know. It's the same type of thing with Mustafa Ali, where I'm like, where is the great Mustafa Ali match? I'm like, Joe Hendry, where is the good stuff? And I'm not even trying to say where's the great stuff. I just want a floor base of where is the good stuff. I don't know. Then we had the Full Metal Mayhem match where Frankie Kazarian defeated Eric Young. This was good. Oh, by the way, I gave a 2.25 star to Hendry versus Swan. Let me rephrase that. This was a match that happened. I didn't think it was a particularly exciting plunder match, and you got to do something special to get me into these things these days, because Christ, you know, I thought the match wasn't particularly violent. There was a good table spot, but, you know, towards the midway of the match, it really lacked spark, and we never got that spark. It was just very standard stuff. Chains are involved. They get some chains involved, but it all looks soft. You know, and we do an elbow drop with a chain while Frankie Kazarian's in the trash can, and I'm like, what? This is not very good. You know, and the audience doesn't seem into it. When they start pulling out tables, the people are into it. And then Kazarian goes for the flux capacitor, excuse me. And he wants to drive Young through the table, but they completely miss the table. And Young clips on the corner of the table, and this is at the end of the match. They cover, and that's the win. And he's bleeding hard way, like he is just gushing. And it turns out that Young needed plastic surgery after that injury. He suffered this is what Gia Miller said on their medical update. Eric Young suffered a severe laceration to his ear. He did see a local plastic surgeon who helped to attach the severed ear, but he is no longer medically cleared to wrestle. I mean, it was a gruesome spot. It wasn't good. Like, that was completely flubbed, and thank God I didn't see ear bits dangling off of someone's head. That wouldn't have been great. Anyway, not tremendous. Not good. I gave it a 2. Then Steve Macklin hits the ring to do an angle. He just got his contract signed, and whatever the fuck. There's Santina Morella comes in, and he says, "Oh, I got a match for you," and he gives him a match, and it's a surprise match. This was not advertised. The return of Mike Santana to TNA after his AEW contract expired, and you know all the stuff that happened there. Mike Santana finally getting back into the swing of things in TNA. It's good for him to be still into this and still be in pro wrestling, and he looked good. I thought he's got a good look for him. I think it works in TNA, and he looked good in this match as well. Comes in through the crowd. Where he got that inspiration from. And he hits a tremendous DVD on Macklin, quarter cannonball. Some back and forth that ends with a discus lariat. Good stuff. Nice, solid, well done, dynamic match. And I really needed this after the last 2 matches. I gave it 3.5 stars. I was feeling good. See, maybe I was in a good mood to watch some Impact Wrestling. But I mean, good for Mike Santana. He'll be fine here. He'll probably be able to do more of the things that he wants his career, where he wants his career to go, as opposed to in AEW where, you know, you kind of felt like he hit a ceiling. They tried some stuff. It's not working out. He's clearly got issues with Ortiz, whatever. I still maintain that that Santana and Ortiz, that is a tag team, Pride and Powerful, as they were also called, they never got the they never got the right of way in AEW. That team wasn't elevated more, that they never won the tag championships, right? They never won the tag team championships, right? Nah, they didn't. Anyway, good for him. Good stuff. Good little refresher here. Then we had the TNA World Tag Team title match where the System team, composed of Brian Myers and Eddie Edwards, defeated Speedball Mike Bailey and Trent Seven. I thought this was very, very good. Well worked, got hot. We were almost in a next gear type of situation. We were close. This was really good. Superplex and shooting star press by Bailey and Seven. Tiger driver by Eddie Edwards. Triangle moonsault by Mike Bailey. Windmill kick dragon suplex combo by Trent Seven and Mike Bailey as well. Just some great stuff. A burning hammer. Ultimo Weapon gets the cover on Edwards, but Myers makes the save. Brian Myers catches Mike Bailey out of the air with a spear on the floor, which was a tremendous spot. And Trent Seven fights off both guys, but eats both the roster cut and the Boston Knee Party for the win. I got very little to say here because I thought this match was dope as hell. I thought this was really, really, really good. I get 3 3/4 stars. Fun match. Was well set up to be my match of the night but just some solid work all around. Solid work all around. Everyone looked good and it just fun, dynamic, not boring. I'm an easy man to please when it comes to my pro wrestling. Just do fun, dynamic, non-boring things. Then we had the last man standing match where Josh Alexander defeated Hammerstone. This was very good. Very, very good. This was my match of the night. I mean, it started off right at the bell. They're going after each other. They're throwing bombs on each other. Germans, belly to bellies. I was apprehensive of this being a last man standing, but this worked out tremendously. Hammerstone demonstrated his power throughout this match. Did a stalling suplex on the floor, a half and half on the apron by Josh Alexander, and then does a figure 4 on the post. Hammerstone uses the headgear against Josh Alexander. He clocks him with him. Josh Alexander bleeds. We even have some tacks get introduced into the match. Hammerstone lands an avalanche nightmare pendulum from the top rope, of course, because it's an avalanche, to the tacks. And Hammerstone actually seemed to have eaten most of the tacks as opposed to Josh Alexander, which was interesting. But they go up to fight on the ramp. Alexander lands a C4 spike and Hammerstone can't answer the 10 count. So Alexander wins. And here's the thing. It's an interesting 4-star match that I'm giving you here. Because I think it's great because the work was so solid, creative, brutal. Like, it was all very good, but it lacked in some moments too. Like, there's some moments where I'm feeling like, okay, this is dragging a little bit, or, they can't. You'd feel like they should wrap it up, but they can't because it's a last man standing. It should go a little longer. It's a 4-star match because the work was really solid, but it was kind of a void also, where it's like I'm trying to get really invested in this, but you're not keeping up the rhythm, you're not keeping up the violence. It feels very plain, like I guess it's like when you have a really good vanilla ice cream, right? You have some really good vanilla ice cream, but I'm talking like premium. I'm talking like with vanilla bean in it and real vanilla bean and like organic cream and, you know, delicious and creamy and fresh. And you're just tasting it. This is like really good vanilla ice cream, but it's still vanilla ice cream. You know what I mean? And I enjoy a good vanilla ice cream, but it's not something where I'm going to have a revelation. I'm going to be, oh, what are they doing here? It's just like, it's vanilla ice cream. It's better than your run-of-the-mill vanilla ice cream. It's premium. It's extra premium ice cream, vanilla ice cream, but it's still fucking vanilla ice cream. That makes sense. Anyway, I have 4 stars nonetheless, but it's like a 3.5 star match that's actually a 4. If that makes sense. I don't know. I think I forgot to mention it, or is this when it happens? Josh Gresham is turning into a legitimate octopus. I think that he's coughing up ink, and is he gonna have a spooky gimmick now? Jordan Grace defeated Steph DeLander. I hated this, man. This stunk. I hated this so much. What a fucking waste of my time. Fucking waste of 12 minutes and 34 seconds. This is just a dumbass angle. And I know Steph DeLander's thing is that she does shtick like Cardona. I get it. But Jesus fucking Christ. This was not good. This was not good. DeLander gets in control, and, 90s house show style offense is what she's showcasing here. And there's distractions, there's title shenanigans, there's a ref bump. The good hands are there because they're accompanying Steph DeLander because it was supposed to be Matt Cardona, but Matt Cardona is going to need surgery and he can't be there. And the good hands are like mercenaries that you can hire. So they're watching out for Steph DeLander, and they do the ref bump, and then the good hands put on the ref shirt, and the lights go out. They do a count, and they come to do the 3. The lights go out. They come back on. PCO is there, and he takes everyone out. And then Khan, the big Khan, comes in to take out PCO. And because they have to fight all the time. And Jordan Grace picks up Khan on her shoulders, but she doesn't get the follow through to do the slam. And then the lights go out again. And Sami Callihan is back. And he cleans house. And Jordan Grace gets the win. Fuck this waste of time. Sami Callihan is back, and that's the news, I guess. Whatever he had in his crosshairs after leaving Impact, was it earlier this year or late last year? Like, I feel like it just happened. Apparently is not coming through. It's not happening, whatever it was. So he's back to his old stomping grounds. I don't know who cares about Sami Callihan in 2024. Quite honestly, I really, really don't. But see, this is where TNA starts TNAing it up again. Now, doing this stupid shit and then bringing back guys where you're like, oh, it's Sami Callihan. So whatever refresher, was being established as new vibes, new things, and so on and so forth, we're just slowly coming back to what TNA was, 2 years ago, last year, and can't capitalize on anything. And then the world title match, the TNA world title match, Moose successfully retained against Nick Nemeth. I like this a lot, actually. By the way, 1.5 star for this Jordan Grace, Steph DeLander stuff. Moose versus Nick Nemeth. Look, I was ready to not like this match, but I did. I don't think it ever hit another gear. Like, I'm much less conflicted on it than I was with the Josh Alexander Hammerstone match. But the guys worked hard here. And this was probably the best I've seen Moose work in a while. I'm not turning into a fan, but I got to call a spade a spade. This was a good performance by Moose, I thought. And Nemeth is dropping famouses right and left. Moose is getting those power moves in, and he wins with the spear. I mean, it's a very good match. Solidly done. Well executed. Like, two pros. They had Ryan Nemeth and the Nemeth senior, the Nemeth dad in the audience, and of course they bring them in, and Nick Nemeth doesn't win, and it's weird because everything was pointing to Nick Nemeth winning the championship. Everything was pointing to him winning the title off of Moose. But no, they decided to not go that route. Continue with Moose. I don't know what TNA sees in Moose so much. Why they keep going back to him and use him as, such a top guy when he's not doing anything for business, really. Uninspired, uninteresting, it's Moose. A guy who looks like a guy, who should be a guy, but doesn't, in practice is not a guy. Like, Moose is a mid-carder anywhere else in the world. Then Matt Hardy shows up in complete broken gimmick form, gets a good reaction from the crowd, lays out Moose. I mean, he later clarified that he's still a free agent, so maybe he's just going to work a couple of dates. But going back to the old stomping grounds where your career renaissance, not even a resurgence, the career renaissance of Matt Hardy and eventually the Hardy Boys happened. I mean, that's good for him. His AEW contract expired, and now he's back doing his own thing. And if he does just a few dates with TNA, well, I think it's good. I don't know who gets excited for the Hardys in 2024. I don't know who gets there. Who gets really, really excited. It's nostalgia at this point, right? That's the only reason, right? I think just a lot of fans have to come to grips that the Hardy Boys is a nostalgia act now. Matt is so busted up. His body's so banged up. He has trouble moving. Like, we saw, you'd see it in, you all saw it in AEW. I don't have to relitigate that. He's in a bad way. All that's really left for him is to go back to the Broken Universe stuff, which didn't fly in AEW and certainly wouldn't fly today. So that's all that's left. Go back to the place that'll let you do it. Just as simple as that. Anyway, that was TNA Rebellion 2024. I thought this was I had a good time. I thought this was a pretty good show. Not a great show. Far from it. There's still some fascinatingly bad decisions here, but I don't know. It's TNA. The more things, like, I look at the show and I'm seeing I'm seeing the reasons why people meme on TNA so much. They're going back to the the standards that never really worked. They're bringing back people that you're like, yeah, okay, but also we're not interested. They're relying heavily on angles in matches that just distract from the reason why you're watching in the first place, and they're not capitalizing on all the goodwill that they had developed towards the end of the year last year, leading into 2024. You're just letting it all slip away. So I don't know. I think this is going to be an interesting, and I know one of their pay-per-views is called Turning Point, but this is going to be an interesting turning point to see just where this company keeps moving forward. What are they doing with Nick Nemeth? What do you do with Nick Nemeth now that he hasn't won the title? It's like, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen there, but I do know what's going to happen next, and that is the end of the weekly wrestling inspection. And of course, that means that this also brings the Mr. Warren Hayes show to an end. Thank you all very much for joining me today, wherever you decided to hop in and allow me to share my wrestling thoughts for a couple of hours. Thank you so much. Likes, subscriptions on YouTube. Hey, those are good. And 5-star reviews on Apple Podcasts and 5-star ratings on Spotify. Hey, those are good too. Anything you can do to show some love would be tremendous. I appreciate it a great deal. I will probably be back on Tuesday for the AEW Dynamite review. I feel like Dynamite is going to be a newsworthy one. I'm excited to see what the follow-up to Dynasty is going to be like. So come and join me there if you want the full thoughts. And regardless where you decide to show up, I will see you next week.